Howdy there folks, Quinn of Snazzy Labs here, and about a year and a half ago, I built my very first computer. Ta-da! This computer. Now, this computer was built with one purpose and one purpose only, to be a Plex media server, so that my family could access our movies, television shows, and music both inside the home as well as on the go. And that purpose has been fulfilled remarkably well over the last year and a half. It was a very cheap build. I built the whole thing for less than $500. Most of the cost went towards the 6TB hard drive array, as well as the actually rather expensive Fractal Design Node 304 case. But there was a cheap Antec 380-watt non-modular power supply, an Intel Pentium G3258, which actually worked to be really, really good. It's a very cheap budget CPU, but it did everything it needed to because I was able to overclock it to 4.7 gigahertz and use both cores to transcode and encode media actually quite well to all of the devices around our home. However, my fondness for computers, well, not computers, but PCs, has grown over the last year and a half. And I thought, it doesn't make much sense to have this computer that's sitting upstairs in the attic, nonetheless, without a monitor, keyboard, or mouse, doing nothing other than being a Plex media server that I access remotely via TeamViewer. It doesn't make sense to have that up there. Why not throw a graphics card in there and make it a gaming PC that I could have in front of the television to do 1080p TV gaming with a Steam controller or an Xbox One controller? And so a couple of weeks ago, I bought an AMD RX480. I threw it into the PCIe slot and everything worked perfectly. No, it didn't, because it never does. It was a bit of an issue. The CPU caused pretty severe bottlenecking on recent titles. I was actually surprised at how well the CPU held up until about last year's AAA games. It was able to handle relatively respectively. However, with this year's latest titles, including games like Doom, that straight up would not even open. The entire computer would crash when I tried to open Doom running Vulkan. I decided it was time to upgrade the computer, to swap out the CPU, to get a better CPU, and then call it a day. The problem is that the G3258 uses an Intel LGA 1150 socket, and all the new Skylake processors are 1151. Now, would it be wise to do what I did and buy essentially an entirely new computer? No, you'd probably be better off buying a last generation processor at a pretty deep discount. But I don't tend to do logical things. I wanted the Skylake processor for reasons that really are irrelevant, other than the fact that I also wanted to rebuild the entire computer. And so here we are. I bought a bunch of new parts. Let's rebuild it. just as I was ready to complete the PC build, I went to drop the AMD RX480 in and I had a major issue. Now I don't want to blame Fractal Design because I'm probably the stupid one. However, on Fractal's website, they say that if you have a full-length graphics card, which the RX480 is, well actually the card's very short, but the cooler is rather long. If you have a full-length cooler or card, you need a power supply lesser than 160 millimeters in length, otherwise you won't be able to seat the card properly because the cables will be jammed up against the side of the card. So I thought, well, I'll get a 150 millimeter power supply. I will leave myself 10 millimeters of room, which isn't a lot, but obviously they include, cables inside that 160 millimeter barrier, and they do not. They're talking about 160 millimeters from where you mount the power supply to pushing your card, flexing your card against the case. I mean, there is not 160 millimeters of room in here. It's probably slightly less. And then you have to account for cable length. So I was pretty much screwed. And I thought, well, crap, I'm going to either have to find another case, which honestly would not have been a bad idea because this build's pretty tight anyway. But I would have either had to find another case or buy an SFX power supply, which are loud, not super reliable, and they're very, very expensive. I didn't want to do either. So I looked at the case and thought, well, hey, wait a minute. This power supply is mounted almost in the middle of the case. Why not move the mounting bracket that Fractal provides an inch over inside the case, drill some new holes, and then mount it there? And that's what I did, and it fits freaking perfectly. I don't know why Fractal decided to put the power supply so far into the middle of the case. There's still sufficient room to drop air here, and there's still sufficient room on the bottom to be able to exhaust it. I don't know why they chose to do it, but whatever. I fixed it. It's not a problem anymore. It was just, well, it was a problem for like an hour while I was trying to figure out what to do. But I outsmarted the kit. It's all about being smarter than a piece of metal. That's all you need to do. Thermals. I was a little worried about thermals, to be honest, because there does not seem to be much room for airflow. However, it didn't seem to be an issue. After a 3-hour-long stress test, I noted that the CPU never exceeded 53 degrees, and the GPU never exceeded 82 degrees, which, although a tiny bit toasty, just barely toasty, is well within the recommended operating temperatures of both components. And I'm never really going to be at 100% load. So I'm excited to see the final results of this computer. I am excited to have it in my home theater and to play sweet games on my TV, as well as have a Plex server. If you're interested in a build like this, all of the parts are linked in the video description below. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a like. If you didn't like it, that other button seems to work okay too. If you're interested in awesome future tech videos like this, you can get subscribed to the channel. And as always, stay snazzy. Thank you so much for watching.